Hey, I'm Jake Lizio, and in this video we're going to talk about the Phrygian Scale. What is it, how do we build it, and where have we heard this before in actual music? And then we'll also talk about what we can do as composers to get the most out of the scale and really kind of enjoy some of the awesome flavor that's imbued into it. So let's get started. Phrygian is really easy to understand if you already know what a minor scale is. So all we have to do to make a Phrygian scale is take a minor scale and then flat that second note. And the example we'll do is A. I'm going to build a Phrygian, and I want to start by thinking of A minor. A minor is just A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. If I take my second note, which is B, and if I flat it, then I have A, B flat, C, D, E, F, G, and A, and then back down those same notes. So pretty simple scale to be able to build if you compare it to minor. If you compare it to major, I want you to think about the scale degrees. We have a 1, a flat 2, a flat 3, a 4, a 5, a flat 6, a flat 7, and a root. Maybe you can hear already, Phrygian has got a dark sound to it. You hear the tension that exists there in my root and my flat 2 right there? There's a lot of nastiness right there. That's like the Jaws theme song is just back and forth between a minor second like that. So having that to kick off our scale is going to really color everything we do in Phrygian. And I want you to listen to some of the examples of where Phrygian's actually used. I can't give you full examples of songs that are in Phrygian. That doesn't really commonly happen, and I couldn't find any examples of it. But it's pretty frequent that we use little bits of the scale or little sections that are in Phrygian because it has such a dark quality to it. The first example I'll give you is from Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth. The riff there sounds like this. So that would be E Phrygian. We're using an E, an F, and a G, and our tonal center right there is E. We've also got the notes B and C surrounding there. So all the notes of E Phrygian surrounding right there, focusing on E. Also, Missy Elliott has a song called Get Your Freak On, and the main riff there is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Get your freak on, get your freak on, get your freak on, get your freak on, get your freak on.
1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that's an F to a G flat to a C. So I've got a root, a flat 2, and a 5th. Now that's only 3 different notes, so I mean that's not enough to spell out a whole scale, but if you listen to the other notes in that track, there's some synth layers that come in and even some of the vocal layers, it all adds up to being an F Phrygian, and it gives it a really dark, creepy sound. Notice that even the imagery in that music video, none of it's bright or cheery, it's all really dark, spooky Halloween style stuff. A lot of electronic music started using Phrygian and the flat 2 specifically to kind of create a darker feel. The early example I could find of this is an awesome song called Never Come Back by Cast Product. It's got that classic early cheesy synth line in Phrygian, and it really gives it this like comically dark sound effect. And later on, I started hearing this crop up more in psychedelic trance. That flat 2 creates a lot of anxiety and tension used by bands like Astral Projection or Spangle. The example I'm going to give you is a song called Searching for UFOs. We've got the weirdness of that flat 2 to kind of add a little bit more interest into what would normally be a dark psychedelic trance song. A lot of people use the song Wherever I May Roam by Metallica as a reference for Phrygian. And although that song does have a lot of Phrygian going on in it, there's so many notes that they use in this song that it's hard for me to just call it Phrygian. Metallica has a tendency to use a lot of notes, and I think in this song they use like all 12. So it's not fair just to call it Phrygian. They do kind of start encroaching upon Phrygian Dominant, which we'll talk about a little at the end of this video. So that's where we've heard it in actual music, but I want to give you a little bit of advice on what you might be able to do to write your own music with it. I want to figure out the chords of this scale, and to do that, all I need to keep in mind is that this is a mode of the major scale. Phrygian is the 3rd mode, which means that all the notes I played, they came from a major scale. Which major scale did they come from? Well, I'm going to ask myself, what major scale has A as the 3rd note? And the answer is F. So all the notes I played came from F major. All the chords I'm going to play come from F major. So if I know the chords of F major, which you probably should know at this point in time, if I figure out the chords of F major, all I got to do is play those chords just starting on the 3rd chord, and I've got my notes of A Phrygian, or my chords of A Phrygian. However, I'm going to rewrite the order of them, and I'm also going to rewrite my Roman numerals so I can see that my tonic is minor, I can see that my 2 chord is a flatted 2 chord, and that it's major, and that helps me figure out these chords. I'm going to have A minor as my 1st chord. I'll have B flat major as my 2 chord. C major for my 3, D minor for my 4, E half diminished will be my 5, my 6 will be F major, and my 7 will be G minor. Now, when I'm writing in Phrygian, I really advise you stay on the root. Always kind of hang out on your tonic. Today, that's going to be A. If I hang out on A for a long time and maybe bring in that flat 2 chord, I'll start maybe getting a little bit of that Phrygian sound develop. I don't want to wander too far from my 1 chord. I really want to come back to it at all points in time to keep this Phrygian flair developed. Because if I hang out on like the 4, that D minor, that sounds great, but it's gonna now all of a sudden sound like my tonic, right? Doesn't D minor sound like home now? And I'm trying to avoid that. I want A minor to sound like home. So I'm gonna stay here on A minor. I'm gonna surround it by notes of A Phrygian, and I'm always gonna, if I leave chords, I'm gonna come back to A minor and really solidify that point as my home chord. So those are the chords of Phrygian, and like I said, I really try to focus on the 1, the 2, and the 7, and just by keeping that in mind, I should be able to start creating some Phrygian madness already. Since it's so dark, naturally, I think some low-hanging fruit to pick would be like, let's write like a demonic, intoning, chanting style resurrection theme, something to like awaken an underground beast that's laid dormant for centuries, like Cthulhu. So I should be able to just maybe pedal some low bass notes on whatever my tonic will be. I haven't written this yet, but I'm thinking probably the lowest note I can sing is maybe a D. So maybe I'll pedal on a D, and then on top of that, in a higher octave, I'll start singing notes of D Phrygian. And maybe I'll pick some Latin words that, you know, evoke some crazy symbols of the awakening beast. Maybe do it backwards and reverse and add a lot of reverb. I should be able to get something really dark, really nasty, and something that really kind of accents all the darkness of that Phrygian scale. There's really nothing happy about this scale at all, so I think it would be fun. What if we took Happy Birthday, which is supposed to be a joyous and congratulatory song, what if we like rearranged the melody and the chord of Happy Birthday so it was in a Phrygian key instead? So try to keep the melodic movement the same, obviously keep the rhythm and the words the same, but if we change all the notes to Phrygian, what would that sound like?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Phrygian. Happy birthday to you.
Now I have to mention to you that Phrygian has a very popular variant called Phrygian Dominant. If you take the 3rd note of my Phrygian scale, which was C, and if you raise it to make it a C sharp, then all of a sudden I have the Phrygian Dominant scale. And you can hear this has even more of that exotic foreign flavor to it. And I'll do an entire video on Phrygian Dominant one of these days. I love the scale. It's a mode of harmonic minor, so if you know harmonic minor already, you can already start dabbling with Phrygian Dominant. And it's just got such a cool exotic flavor to it. We hear a lot of different bands compose with it, Dream Theater and Tool, but it is closely related to Phrygian, and I figured I'd have to bring it up in this video. So I hope this gives you a little insight as to what Phrygian's all about and why you might be interested in learning it. It's a really cool sounding mode, and there's a lot of options. If we started going on the acoustic instead and I started playing extended chords, I can actually get some really dark jazzy sounds out of this as well. It doesn't all have to be like demon worshiping music or really, you know, dark dirge music. You can get a little color out of there depending on how you arrange it and the instrumentation that you use. This video, you can thank the folks over at my Patreon page who are supporting the productions of these videos. You can join them over on my page. I've linked to it below in the description. But if you can't do that, that's fine. Just like, subscribe, share these videos with your friends, and I'll plan on seeing you next time.